Oh, oh, wait for it. There we go. Yeah. There it is. All right, welcome back. Man, look at that. That was smooth, huh? All right.
Pretty smooth. Pretty smooth. And in fact, it's interesting that the opening music is from Elas Ayam, since
Mhm.
actually it may be appropriate to bring back Elas Ayam at this point, given
Ooh,
everything that's going on in our world.
fucking hey, man. Oh my God. Yeah, you should see. Oh boy. Yeah, the leftist Greeks are not well pleased about the current state of shit. It is. Ooh boy. I mean, and as well they shouldn't be. That's I saw there was protesters in uh in Cyprus at the American base and the British base,
Hmm.
being like, "Stop it," which maybe turned out to be potentially a false flag. But let's maybe we should do a little recap, a little intro. I'm Odysseus. I'm here with my uncle, Doctor AJ Layun, comrade uncle. And we are here today to talk to you about a whole mess of bullshit. Um, the um, the kind of state of affairs that we're in right now is that America has America and Israel, of course, as we had discussed last time, have launched a an attack on Iran and Lebanon. Although Israel is the one doing Lebanon, while America is also attacking Iran. Sort of, there's been this exchange of blows so far. Israel has done their normal heinous shit, and now the sort of conflict is spreading to the wider region. I think last time we talked on, well, anyway, some of this stuff had already kind of gone down, and since then, of course, it's less than a week later. We have gotten a whole other mess of bullshit happening. Um, so, where should we begin with it? I guess what had happened? It just seems like it's such a crazy mess of shit that it's you almost don't even know where to start. It's like, man,
Well, I
uh,
mean, I think we can start.
yeah, what do you
We
think?
probably should start somewhere at the beginning, work toward the end that we know about, and then we'll stop, I think. But
Mm,
the beginning, I think, is important because it's question is one of the questions is why. What is our problem with Iran? I mean, right? I mean, what is our problem with
yeah.
Iran? Now, when we spoke last week or earlier this week, I can't remember, but it wasn't long ago. We went through the data on the UN Charter and illegal wars of aggression and talked a little bit about that. It is as clear as can be that what is being perpetrated on Iran is an illegal war of aggression. So, no matter what one feels, whether one likes or doesn't like Iran, whether you like or don't like, uh, a, a religious government, it really is just irrelevant. I mean,
Right.
there are. I mean, it's irrelevant unless we say we're going to just live in the law of the jungle, and forget about League of Nations, forget about United Nations, forget about basically, 100 and some years of international law. But I think we don't want to do that. I think if we do that, we will soon rue the fact that we ever went down that road. So,
Yeah.
first of all, the attack by Israel and the United States on Iran was and remains an illegal war of aggression. Because the United Nations Charter was ratified in 1945 by the United States Senate, that treaty is now the law of the land. Therefore, our military, who follow orders from Trump and Hegseth and flag officers, are actually following illegal orders, and they have every right to not follow them because by the UN Charter, you cannot threaten or use force without the approval of the United Nations Security Council, and we do not have that. This is an illegal war of aggression. So first things first, no matter what else there is, this is wrong, number one. And we talked about that a bit last time. It's just pretty clear that that Trump and the Israelis, I should say that the United States and the Israelis, because this is beyond just Trump, although Trump is the leader, miscalculated, misconceived what the response of Iran would be and the readiness of Iran. They have used old drones and old missiles to basically force the Israelis, United States, to consume their supply of interceptor missiles for the anti-missile systems, the so-called Iron Dome, and the THAAD system. And it appears that they're now using newer type missiles to attack Israel with some significant success. The last, the podcast I heard with, it's a guy named Danny Davis, who's an ex Colonel Danny Davis. He's an ex armored commander, tank commander. And he's got a very interesting podcast. It has interesting guys. And the guy he had on was a guy named Ted Postal from MIT. And Professor Postal was talking about sort of the success rate of these anti-missile interceptors and how it's really fairly low. And he provided some data as to why that was the case and so forth. And one can see that Tel Aviv, Haifa, Jerusalem are all getting hit pretty hard. So I think that they are now using more advanced missiles. And in fact, one of the missiles is what can only be considered a MIRVed missile, a multiple independent reentry vehicle missile. It's may not be quite right terminology because I don't think it's quite reentry as if it was an intercontinental ballistic missile. But basically, when the missile's several miles high, it opens, and then there are a release of not one warhead, but something like 80 to 100 warheads, smaller, but there. And somebody has termed this cluster munition, which is a little bit different. This is not quite the same thing, I don't think, but clearly unstoppable is what these things are. And the results are fairly clear to see in multiple verified, validated video feeds that are being seen. So this was the United States and Israel clearly erred. First of all, it's an illegal war of aggression. I don't want to keep saying that because it matters. But secondly, we were not prepared and we underestimated, as we seem to always do. At least in my lifetime, we underestimated the people who we consider our enemy. This is frankly racism at its height. We did it in Vietnam. We did it during the Korean War. We have just done it over and over and over again. And we're doing it again. We've done it again. And so we have, I think, paid, and the Israelis are paying significantly for this. The Iranians stated quite clearly that if they were attacked, this is before the war started, that whomever attacked them, they would respond to. And if neighboring countries allowed their territory to be used for attacks, they would respond negatively toward those neighboring countries. And they in fact did that. At the very opening, they attacked multiple Gulf countries. But what they attacked were the bases of the United States in those countries primarily. And so they have taken out and one of the reasons why I believe the missiles that they launch are so successful is because they've taken out the sophisticated radar that gives advanced warning when the missiles are on their way in. So again, they have played this tactically and I think strategically quite well. Now I should say, obviously, we never said this. I mean, remember, for the people who are listening, this podcast started as a medical podcast years and years ago when COVID first started, and we kind of branched out. So I don't have any claims to special military knowledge, but I believe that both their tactics and their strategic vision of the Iranians is quite clear and quite good. having stated that I'm not a military guy. What's concerning, I think, in the last 24, 36 hours are a couple of things. I mean, first of all, this whole war, of course, is concerning because once again, it's an illegal war of aggression. One doesn't quite know where it's going to go, but some of the attacks that have been perpetrated in the last 24, 36 hours are incredibly disturbing. And it's disturbing because, you know, the Iranians, again, you know, they were quite clear. If you do this, we will do the following. If you do that, we will do the following. And they have been as good as their word. They stated, if you attack Israel and the United States, our oil production facilities, we will shut down all oil production coming out of the Gulf. Everything. Everything. Saudi Arabia, name it. Well, their oil facilities were attacked today. And so the Straits of Hormuz is essentially closed. I think it will be completely closed except for friendly ships, that is to say those going to China, for example. And so that's 20% of the world's oil goes through there. And if they shut down everything else coming out of the Gulf, this is going to cause a massive problem for the world economy. This is, again, very poorly thought through by Israel and the United States. Very poorly thought through. Equally as frightening, to my mind, maybe even more frightening. No, more frightening. The initial Israeli and American attacks were on schools, hospitals, and hospitals. And of course, the opening move was a destruction of 180, I believe it is, lives of little kids, 7 to 12-year-old girls in a girls' school. But schools and hospitals have been attacked consistently. Some 12 hospitals, and I've forgotten now how many schools, but a good number. And then today, the water desalination system that fed some 30 towns / villages in Iran was attacked by Israel and or the United States, which is, to have no oil leaving is a big deal for the world economy. To have no water, fresh water, is a huge deal. And what one might expect, and the Iranians have not explicitly stated this, but they have stated that there will be a response, is that they will attack the desalination machinery for the state of Israel. And when there's no longer water available for people, this is going to become massively ugly. And what concerns me now, I mean, it's concerned me since the beginning. It's concerned me because this is, as we stated, I feel like I'm jumping all over the place, but as we stated earlier in the week when we talked, there's a bunch of things that are being ignored while these wars in the Ukraine, with Russia, in Congo, in Sudan, in Gaza, now in Iran, while these wars are going on, we are utterly ignoring the climate emergency, and it remains a climate emergency. I don't know at what point our ignoral, if the word is the proper use of that term, will finally bite us in the butt, but it's going to do it at some point. And that's a huge issue. But the second issue is that my concern is, the initial rationale, if you will, for why the United States and Israel needed to attack Iran was bullshit, of course, but it was because you can't have them having nuclear weapons. It's got nothing to do with nuclear weapons. They don't have nuclear weapons, but the Israelis do. And my dramatic fear is that the Israelis will use them because they are losing. So I am terribly concerned at the way this is going. There seem to be no, quote, grown-ups, unquote, anywhere. Antonio Guterres, who is the head of the United Nations, the Secretary General, as far as I can see, he's been utterly silent. He's done nothing. No emergency calls, of the General Assembly or the Security Council. The European Union is a bunch of hacks who are doing nothing but supporting Israel. and the United States. Utterly
Mhm.
inconceivable why they would be doing this. Just it's to say nothing of wrong.
Hmm.
China is saying the right words. I don't know precisely what they can do. I don't think they want to jump in the middle of this and with soldiers and tanks and ships, but China is saying some of the right words, as are as is, excuse me, the Russian Federation. Russia's got its hands full. Um, I if no adult takes control of this in the near future, my my real concern is that this gets worse, becomes and goes nuclear, accidentally, on
Yeah.
purpose. I don't know, but this is really worrisome. And once that line is breached, I don't know what happens. Um, I just don't know what happens. So this has become incredibly concerning. Um, and again, I mean, I want to emphasize, like, it really doesn't make any difference whether you like or don't like the Iranian nation. It is a constitutional, religious, Islamic republic. It is as democratic, at least as democratic as the United States of America. Now, people may not want to hear that, and our democracy is frankly pretty anemic and pretty poor, but it's at least as good as what we've got. And, we may not agree with a bunch of things, but that's just not relevant. You just can't go around. One hopes we would have learned this decades and decades ago, trying to change governments. And for those people who have a short memory, we destroyed Iranian democracy in 1953 when their democratically elected prime minister was overthrown by the United States CIA and the British Secret Service. I believe it's MI6. I mean, you can't we can't do this stuff, but we are doing it, and it is an unmitigated disaster. And the consequences, the potential consequences, are just horrific. And I think the last
Yep.
thing, and then I'll shut up for a minute, is
Mm-mm.
one of the things that we keep seeing. I mean, like over and over. And Professor Chalmers Johnson from UC San Diego, one of my professors years ago, who's unfortunately now dead, wrote about the concept of blowback, that what our countries, what imperial countries do to peoples outside of the country eventually comes back to haunt us here within the country. And we've seen that in a number of different ways with the degradation of our freedom of speech, with the militarized police and so forth. But what's being done by the Israelis and the United States against Iran and elsewhere, what happened in Gaza, is going to come back, and it already has to some extent come back to hurt us. All we have to do is think about the behavior of Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, and the way they've killed a handful of people over the last months. Yeah, what's her name, Nome, has been removed, but that's irrelevant. I mean, the
Mm-hmm.
entity still exists, and they're as corrupt as they've ever been, and violence as they've ever been. So I think there's nothing but a bunch of extremely bad um, signs on the road that things are going to get even worse as we move forward. Um, and I just don't know where kind of relief is going to come from. Again, unless it's perhaps China.
Yeah. Right. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I kind of understand. I feel all these sort of mixed feelings about the whole China thing. It's like I kind of get not wanting to step, and everybody really. I get not wanting to step into a direct confrontation with the United States. It is, it's like, much like the USSR at the like I said last time, much like the USSR at the beginning of World War II. It's like, man, if you're not ready, you're not ready, and what can you say, But at the same time, it's like, yeah, it's like Boa said, this guy, you know, action has to be pushed. I mean, really, it's the UN, right? Like, who else could it be? I mean, of course, we're all
Right.
about, not we, but they are all about disregarding, um, international whatever, but still,
International law. Yeah, we clearly
yeah,
think it's unimportant, as do
yeah,
the
right.
Israelis.
Would rather it be. And I think an important connection that you made is definitely the one to climate change, because I think in a lot of ways this is truly the plan. I don't mean directly, war with Iran, although truly, again, with the whole bringing the oil into the situation, um, kind of, it's like, yeah, they are pretty closely related. But nonetheless, it is, it's like one of these things. It's like that is kind of what the idea is. That's what what are your choices, frankly, when you as a society or as a country, nation, I guess, are are faced with climate change, with a catastrophic situation or catastrophe of any sort. You can respond to it through socialism, redistribution of wealth, spending that spending resources in ways that don't directly produce profits. Or you can respond to it through genocide. If you have a bunch of refugees, to break that down more specifically, if you have a bunch of refugees, what are you going to do with them? You going to let them in? Are you going to bring them and have them contribute? Are you going to help them rebuild their lives somewhere, here, there, whatever? Are you going to address the issues that are creating the refugees? Or are you going to round them up and, exterminate them or whatever? I mean, I think that the ruling class made it abundantly clear, actually during COVID. Not that they haven't done so in the past, but I mean, the American response to COVID was a great example of exactly what they want to do with us, which is just let people die. At best, let people die. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
Mhm.
it's not, and then pretend it didn't happen, or it's not happening, or it's not as bad as it seems, or it's justified, or Iran's got nukes, and so but what is the fact? The fact is, what are we actually after? You alluded to that, or said it. I mean, we're after their oil, right? They had the audacity to nationalize their oil and to kick out their puppet ruler, their American-backed Shah. Um, and that is unacceptable. Same thing with Venezuela. They nationalized their oil, and we want that oil now, because not we, but because of the U.S.
Yeah.
sees its
Yeah.
grasp slipping, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, what do you think? I mean, that's kind
I
of my
mean, I think, I mean, it's true. And of course, the worst part of all of this is what oil, I mean, there will always be need for some oil. I mean, we will never, ever, I expect, never, ever not need some oil,
of
but
course.
not to the extent that we
Yeah,
use
what we're
it
doing is
today in this
foolish.
world. I mean, but
Yeah.
what we really, really need to do is decarbonize the our our electrical grid, decarbonize
Right.
our power sources. I mean, I mean, and the only way you can say no, no, we don't need to, is if you wish to believe the roughly 1 to 2% of climate scientists who say, no, the 98%, 99% are wrong. We're
Hmm.
right. It's really not human. It's just a blip. Won't be a problem. But most reasonable people who know science, know climate science. Now, I do not pretend to be a climate scientist, just like I don't pretend to be a military guy, but I do know science. I do know research. And this, I think this is real. This is real. And so
Hmm.
we do have to begin to address it. And to the limited extent that it was addressed under Biden, it was at least addressed. Now that's gone.
Yeah.
It's not being addressed at all. And we're pumping into the atmosphere tons and tons and tons, gigatons of carbon dioxide that is not going to be able to be removed. This is going to be a real problem.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we actually we don't want their oil. We don't even need their oil. What we need to do is burn less oil,
Yes.
rapid transit, electrical grids that run from solar, wind, tide. I mean, the technology exists. You don't need any technological advances. All we need to do is have the money and the will to do it, and it's done.
Yeah.
In fact, one of the things
Yeah.
that's although there's one of the things that China has done is it is putting up wind and solar at rates that are like unheard of. And one of the really, I think, rather wonderful things that People's Republic of China has done is they've provided to the Republic of Cuba um,
Mm.
solar panels and the systems to connect it, because the United
Mm-hmm.
States is now blocking all oil um, into that country, which has caused
Yeah.
them no end of damage. Um, so maybe if they can survive this, it may be that they'll be just fine. In fact, better than just fine, because
Mm.
they'll have solar, wind, and so forth. But the what we are doing puts the Iranians at severe risk, the
Right.
Palestinians at severe risk, the Congolese, the Sudanese at severe risk, but it puts all of us at risk, all of us,
Mm-hmm.
because this
Mm-hmm.
climate emergency will not go away. And if you add on top of that the damage that'll be done with even a limited nuclear
Mm.
exchange. I mean, what exchange? The only people who
Right.
have the weaponry are the Israelis and the United States right now at this war. Um, this is going to cause horrific damage. I mean, not talk about collapse of markets. I mean, collapse of everything,
Right.
everything. And then the people who live their lives, at least in our country, the United States, complaining about immigrants. What are these foreigners doing here? Well, I mean, where are people going to go? You've ruined their countries.
Yeah.
I mean, the Middle East, Afghanistan, we have destabilized it just like we did Latin America, in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, people travel to where they feel they can be safe, whatever it
Right.
takes. That's what they'll do.
Right.
And the same thing
Right.
is going to happen. What we are doing is ensuring that there is chaos and mass migration.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the people who run ICE uh, will will insist on arresting these people who are now coming looking for a safe place for themselves and their children. But we're setting up the conditions so that they will have to leave their countries. So this is just an unmitigated disaster. Unfortunately, yes, we have a small voice on this podcast, but it's going to take much, much more uh, to get people's attention so that they really, really focus on these issues. You know, again, Trump. Again, I don't want to personalize it, because just like I don't want to personalize Netanyahu,
Well, yeah.
the Israeli state is a genocidal, racist state. Full stop. The
Yep.
United States has been a genocidal country, a racist country for a long time. We've tried to make some improvements. I don't know that we've done such a great job, but we, you know, we are, we've got $1 trillion, I believe it's $1.5 trillion for our military is what Trump wanted. I mean, we need to cut that by about, I don't know, three quarters,
Yeah.
maybe more, and use those
Wow.
monies to rebuild our cities, housing, education, transport, electrical grid, health system,
Yeah.
you name it. I mean, that's what we need. That's what's needed in our country. Our people, I mean, our people span the world, right? I mean, because we are socialists. We don't. National borders are just fake, but we do live in the
Yes.
United States, and I feel tied to this place because I mean, here's where I spent my life. I want this place to be better. But
Yeah.
with what we're doing and the way we're spending the monies that we have, we can't take care of our own people. Hence the homelessness, hence 600,000 people going bankrupt every year in the United States because of because of medical costs that they can't afford. Hence,
Right.
people who are functionally illiterate, some 50-some%. Something I think that might be off by that number a little bit, but it's
It's higher
some 50
than.
for the United States, people in the United States read at a fourth or fifth grade level, something like that. It's pretty bad, and
Right.
on and on and on and on and on. All of these things need to be addressed, but instead of addressing those, we talk about trans people who we don't like, and gays that we don't like, and brown people who we don't like, and Iranians who we don't like, and oh my God,
Yeah.
this is just craziness.
It's culture war instead of class war. You know.
Culture war instead
Uh,
of class. That's right. That's
yeah.
right.
Yeah. Yeah. This is. I mean, this is. That's what we're seeing. I'm sure if Marx were alive today, was alive today, he would call a spade and say that this is it is class war. I mean, despite the fact that it's between two nations, it is fundamentally a war uh, by the ruling class on the less fortunate, so to speak. You know, like on the country that is to have its resources extracted, much like the Vietnam War, much like a lot of other wars, World War II. You know, this sort of uh, you know a scrabble for resources, and I think that like you said, it's ever intensifying, and that's the real scary part of it. You know, while in World War II or whatever, we could, well, I suppose actually to the end of World War II, we could maybe not end the world, but we had started to develop that technology. Now we live in a world that is balanced on a knife's edge, and we just this sort of failing empire um, just keeps kind of pushing and pushing because they know that they're losing their grasp, and on some level I suspect, or at least some of them know. I think there's a lot of delusional thinking, at least overtly, going on, but clearly there's some sort of, I mean, what's clear is clear, and whether or not everybody who's involved is clear-headed about it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and I mean, I think it's pretty. I mean, I think the people who are, it may not be Trump, but the people who
Mm.
really do run our government and country know that we
Right.
are losing and we are losing control. You
Right.
bring up the one interesting point that I haven't thought about it in a little while, but I have, which is this indeed a class war? Is this indeed
Mm.
class war? You know, we at the beginning of World War One, before World War One started, the I think was it the Second International, right? The Second
Mm-hmm.
International said we will not fight against one another. We will not do that. Working people's organizations. We will not. And then the war came, and people fell apart, and the French were fighting the Germans, and so forth. And the working class was basically wiped out in World War One. It was basically wiped out on the fields of World War One. I don't think
Mm-hmm.
we've ever come to grips with that. How to deal with that? And as part of it's the issue of nationalism. I mean, for example, I do think there is the Israelis have this concept of Greater Israel that basically where they control
Mm-hmm.
Middle East, North Africa, and
Yeah.
they are the power, and they can do what they want.
From the
But
Euphrates to the Nile. Yeah.
yes, but where is the Israeli working class? Where is
Mm.
the Israeli working class, and why are they not standing up and saying, "Excuse me, this is not for us. We don't want this. What we want is something that so that working people from whatever country they live in can have decent lives. We don't need to be the power." But they don't. But that's not happening. In fact, the polls that come out of Israel, the last one I've seen, it's been a little while. 87% of people say ethnically cleanse the whole of Gaza, and 47% say kill everybody. And the numbers for Iran, again, I've only heard of one study. I've not actually seen the study. I've only heard of it. It's basically similar. They're just fine with going to war with Iran and trying to destroy them. But this is Israeli working class. These are working class people. Not everybody, of course, but this is Israeli working class. Where are they? There's a
Yeah.
very small Communist Party. There's a very small
Sure.
group that says, no, this is wrong, but it's infinitesimally small. You
Yes.
know,
Yeah.
so where are those people?
I mean,
And
I
that
think
is
that. Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
no. I mean, it's just it's not like I have an answer for this.
Hmm.
We have spoken, you and I, on this very
Yeah.
podcast about forgiveness, about being able to bring people around, even who are present today, our enemies, political enemies. I mean, I don't want to work. My goal is not to be killing people, eliminating that. No, my goal is to, as much as possible, convince, talk to, argue with,
Yeah.
bring people around. But but there has to be some willingness to see that there's an issue, and I don't see that. I don't see the working class of, just for example, Israel is in a position to sort of say, hey, what are we doing here? What are we doing? That
Yeah.
doesn't seem to be the case at all.
Well, I think that I mean, to go back, actually, I think that in this case, in that to that question, I think the example of World War II, of the larger German society during World War II, is incredibly informative. I know, and probably to some extent Italy, and that's the I mean, if you look at this as an issue in some sense of redistribution, I mean, let's look at what happened in Germany, right? You have a pressure between there's a pressure for change, a dramatic pressure for change, and and you and capitalism is in crisis. So again, we have the option of redistributing wealth and power on an egalitarian basis. That's what the communists were after. Your two major forces are the communists and the or the more broadly the left and the Nazis, and the sort of Nazis pitch to the capitalist class in Germany was, look, they want to take your stuff, we don't. Now, never mind that they wound up sort of subjugating the capitalist class shortly after taking over. It, regardless, the question that was put to the the big owners of industry was, you can go with us, and or you can go with them. And I think that's fundamentally what we see in Israel. I don't mean that there's just some overt, Netanyahu goes to the business class and says, hey, whatever. But they, like everywhere else, are a society in crisis. They are, because climate change threatens everyone, and because we are in this stage of capitalism where the contradictions have heightened to such a point pretty much everywhere that that it's putting this tremendous pressure on the kind of on society, on to provide some sort of change, and I think that both of those things, both the sort of annihilationist, the promise of fascism, we give you stuff, or the promise of communism, we give you stuff. And I don't mean to say that those are equal, because where that stuff comes from is the difference, right? Fascism preserves the power of and the resources of the ruling class by just liquidating a portion of the lower class. I mean, those are your two options, right? You can either take it from this pile, the massive pile, or you can leave that pile alone and just pick on these guys. When people, because that's like kind of the appeal of, for example, Trump's anti-immigrant stuff, is, and not just Trump, I'm sorry, it shouldn't even say that, but like all the anti-immigrant stuff is like, you are barely hanging on, and these guys are taking your stuff. They're coming here to take your jobs. They're coming here to, never mind that the jobs are shipped overseas. Never mind that that's not actually, what's happening. But there's a issue, and somebody comes in offering to address it. And the ruling class can either say, hey, we can, give them some of what we have, or we can tell them that these guys over there, they're the ones taking from us. And that's, right. I think that's what we see. I think that's what we see in Israel too, is there's a pressure because of a variety of reasons. You don't even actually have to have that much pressure in order for that that calculus to work. It's sort of innately appealing, because capitalism is just by its nature an unequal system. And so when you have some sort of somebody promising to make life better for you, whether it be by getting rid of all the Palestinians, and we'll have a Riviera or whatever, or by kicking out all of the immigrants, or whatever, it's just, that's a not a rational response. I don't want to say it's a rational response to the pressures of capitalism, but it is a response, and it's the preferred. I mean, that's why they say, what's that line? Fascism is capitalism's response to crisis. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, I think that's kind of what we see. I think that's kind of like
Well,
why wouldn't the working class just? Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
no, no. I mean, you raised
What do you
several
think?
interesting points. I mean, I think first of all, the issue in Germany, I think, is a little more complicated than fascist
Sure.
versus communist. Right? I mean, first of all, there were multiple right-wing parties. The Nazis were actually a minority party for a good while. The Communist Party and the Social Democrats, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the communists themselves had some 30% of the seats in the Reichstag. I think I'm right about it. They had a they were pretty big, and the Social Democrats had a big chunk. I may be slightly off on the numbers, but but they weren't willing to work together.
All right.
But they were not willing to work together,
Well, no, that's
and
actually.
that
I mean, okay. I think that that's a post post World War II justification that's introduced by these kind of revisionist figures in Germany. I my my read on it. Okay, so I mean, yeah, again, minds can differ, but I think that one of the biggest turning points to me in the history is when Hitler has these meetings, series of meetings with the heads of industry. I mean, he goes to I can't remember what was it, Kraft or Krupp,
no, there
whatever.
was a. You're right.
Krupp.
There was a whole host of them. This is correct.
All right,
But
and
but
he's in.
before
Mm,
that,
mm-hmm,
there was this movement, and I don't think this is post World War II revisionist. Not my, I mean, to my reading. I mean, we could
mm-hmm.
find the books
Oh, maybe
and
we're
have a whole.
referring to different stuff. Yeah. So please,
Right.
yeah, elaborate.
But the the social democrats and the communists didn't work
Mm,
together, and as a result, the right won. And you're right. As soon as Hitler took power, he basically he kept the profits flowing to big industry. That's
mm-hmm,
true,
mm-hmm.
but ultimately, he destroyed everything, them as
Yeah.
well.
Well. Yeah.
Um, it's but it's but it's but it's at least it strikes me, and maybe it's just
Mm,
that I, from this distance in history, I don't see it as clearly as I can
mm-hmm,
see what happens in the United States, or even perhaps in Israel. In the United States, like where's the working class? Where was the working class there? Because the
mm,
working class now is multi-hued in terms of ethnicity. Um, lots of women, but in the past, it was men, white men, and as long as they were better than black and brown men or women, white, brown, black,
mm-hmm,
it was okay. Things were okay. And I think in from my understanding of the state of Israel, both from my reading and having been there multiple times,
mm-hmm,
and talked with people who I have considered my friends and family until Gaza, of course. Um,
mm-hmm,
um, you know, they Jewish supremacy is a real thing. And yes, you could be working class, but if you were Israeli Jewish working class, you were better than any Palestinian working class guy.
mm-hmm.
And that was the way you kind of kept the working class separated, just like we did in this country. And in fact, there are
Great point.
significant similarities. In fact, some of the same stuff happened in Germany, although it was with the Jewish population that was
Mm-hmm,
considered othered. So,
mm-hmm.
I
Yeah,
the
that's a
issue,
great
I mean,
point.
but I mean, I think the point is the failure of the Second International, of the Working Men's Association, to not go to war with one another. That haunts us to this day. The reverberations of that failure, I think, haunt us to this day. And I'm not sure we've actually come to grips with it. And again, I mean, there are people way smarter than I am who've
Hmm.
given much greater thought to this. Actually, we might want to consider having BOA come on and talk with
Hmm.
us about this.
Oh, I
Or
like that.
um, but
Yeah.
but um, but we have this is our problem, and I'm not sure we can move forward until we have somehow figure that problem out and determine how we work through it. Um,
Mm,
I'm just not sure. And so here we are on day, what is this, 8 or 9 of this war? Saturday through
mm.
Saturday's days. Is that right? Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, day 8 of this war, coming on day 9. Um,
Oof.
and it seems to be spinning out of control. Um, where is the Israeli working class that says no? Where, the Where's the American working class that says no? But like the Italians, we will not continue to make weaponry that gets sent to Israel. Where are they? They're silent. It's not there. Some of the Italian dock workers have simply refused to load ships with weapons that were going to
I love
Israel.
to see it, man. I love it. God, it's just. I
Mm.
mean, yeah. Spain. Did you
And
see
then,
Spain?
now, I mean,
It's
on the one hand, people are afraid. People are afraid. There's, the unions are at an all-time. They're weak. They're at an all-time low in terms of numbers, and they're weak. People are afraid how are they going to pay their rent if they go on strike? I mean, there's a million reasons why this wouldn't work. But there's only two things that we can do that will slow this war mongering juggernaut down. One is violence, which, the states got more violence and would hurt us. Violence is not the answer for this, at least not, violence is not the answer. The only other thing is a national general strike to basically shut the system down and say to the people in DC and in all the state capitals, we will not take part in this. We will not kill our brothers and sisters, no matter what country they're from. If we have disagreements, we'll figure them out. And in fact, as the Omani foreign minister said before Israel and the United States attacked, I think it was last Saturday, they had an agreement. It was if this was really about a nuclear program and nuclear weaponry, they had an agreement. It would have been fine. This was solvable. But no, Israel and the United States wanted to go to war, thinking that they could destroy Iran, which they really cannot do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah, it's kind of shocking. It seems
yeah. This
crazy.
this could be. We need to shake these guys up a little bit. And I think general strike is the only way that happens. And that would be a challenge in this country, given the lack of organization amongst all of us who are, workers. Those of us, if you work for a paycheck, you're a worker, full stop. It's a problem. It's a real problem. And I'm afraid we may not have as the time we need to organize. Or the bottom falls out
Yeah.
one way or another,
Yeah.
either nuclear war or the climate just finally comes and just destroys us.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, hopefully this is one of those situations where the crisis will push the the change. That's my fervent hope is that we kind of the rising tide of pressure. The pressure builds to the point that it forces change before catastrophe, because that is definitely certainly where we're headed. One thing I should mention, or it brought to mind. I was talking to somebody and they asked me, just like a normal guy, he's like, "What can we do? What could my union do?" Because I had been talking about labor, and so that kind of prompted me to look some stuff up. But what you said about the general strike brought it to mind. Never mind the fact that general strikes are bizarrely outlawed, and in the U.S. there's all this insane stuff about it. Anyway, but what you're saying, I mean, it's not specifically about Iran, although they don't limit themselves either. But there's this group, Labor for Palestine, that's kind of doing some cross union organizing in favor of Palestine. It's laborforpalestine.net if anybody wants to look it up. They're pretty cool. I would actually suggest, if you're in a union, or you have any pull with unions or whatever, or you're just curious, because I think it's not only for union folks. They do some cool stuff, and they are trying to kind of push this union organizing. Because I mean, what I had initially started at the point of was just bitching that why the hell aren't what is up with the silence of American unions? Why? Okay, some of them have been captured by the arms industry, but there's there's a good chunk of them that it's not. Maybe at very least they would object on moral grounds. Never mind the fact that everything else. But so I kind of wound up looking it up before I said, yeah, that's just the American unions have completely failed. Well, that's actually not entirely true. There's this thing you can get unions are kind of signing on. I don't know if they're pushing for a strike or not. I don't know what precisely, but
Well, the organization of a general strike would, I mean, that would take serious organization. There would have to be
yeah.
serious money to take care of the people who are on strike, and
But
including
who?
lawyers, including the number of people who would end up getting arrested. So, I mean,
Mm,
that kind of organization, if that organization is happening, it's certainly a very well kept secret. I don't think it's
mm.
happening, but that
I don't think
is
so. I think they're
what
trying to
we've
build a
got to
framework
do.
for it.
Yeah, I mean
Mm,
I mean that is the only answer. We are not going to vote our way out of this. I don't even know if there will be voting in the midterms. I mean, one hopes it will happen, but there's enough concern with what Trump and his people are
mm,
doing that it may not,
yeah.
or it may be completely fraught given the way they're trying to eliminate the ability of people to vote, some people to vote, that is. Um, and the truth of the matter is that while there is the Green Party and there are some other parties, there is a duopoly, and it's very hard to elect people who are not in the duopoly. And the Democratic Party is led by two of the most lackluster, thoughtless human beings I think it's ever been possible to imagine: Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries. I mean, these guys are utterly useless human beings. I mean,
But
I'm
they're
not
not
I'm
just.
not trying to characterize them as
No.
anything other than bad leaders. They may be good men and good
Oh, they're
mom,
not.
dads, and
Uh,
no. I mean, I'm just saying
I
as
mean, it could be
I'm
good
not
dads. I don't
reproaching
know,
their
but
humanity. I'm saying as
uh,
leaders of the opposition, they are utterly useless.
I don't think. But
Schumer came out
that's the
and
thing. They're
publicly
not oppositions. They're not.
no.
I mean, they're not leading an opposition. They're leading a fucking cheerleading squad. It's like yeah. You saw what he said. It was not. That was not an opposition. That's for sure.
Schumer came out and said that one of his main jobs was to make sure that the left in the United States supported Israel. I mean,
Oh, I missed
if
that.
that's a main job, then my friend, you're in the wrong job. That's not what your main job is. I know, and Hakeem Jeffries is and just as bad, frankly, just as bad. So
I
we
was more
I don't
talking
think
about the Iran thing. I don't know if you caught their statements. Basically, the mainstream Republican, the mainstream Democrat statement, or position on Iran is, well, he should have asked us
yeah,
for admission, but if he had asked us, we would have said yes. But
they would have given it to him. They would have given it to him. Right, right. Because I
Uh,
mean, that party is a warmongering for the most part party, just
yeah,
like the Republicans. And once again, I mean, there is no there is no politician who doesn't lie. There is no country that's not flawed. There is no governmental system that doesn't have issues that need to be dealt with, whether it's Iran or Cuba or United States or anyone else. But to go to war with a country on utterly false pretenses, which is what this war was perpetrated on, an illegal war of aggression, um, for and it's really quite clear that what is wanted by the United States is to eliminate a country that has stood firmly in support of the Palestinian people, and they have, and the
yeah,
resistance, Hezbollah, Hamas, so forth,
yeah.
and the
Oh,
Houthis.
we should mention what
I'm
happened
sorry.
with with Lebanon, just because us poor Lebanese are so frequently left out of the picture. Of course,
Well,
yeah,
I mean, Hezbollah again. Hezbollah, in the eyes of many in the United States, is a terrorist organization. Hezbollah, of course, did not exist until the Israelis invaded Lebanon and vowed they would never leave Lebanon. And then they mistreated the people in the south of Lebanon. And so the people in the south of Lebanon said, well, we don't like this very much. Hezbollah came into existence, and they pushed I think it was 2006, they pushed the Israelis out of the country completely. And they have been the only force that has kept Israel from returning. And in fact, the Lebanese government, which is corrupt, sold, bought, had pulled its soldiers, who are inadequately armed to take on Israel anyway, but pulled their soldiers out of southern Lebanon. When the Israelis said several days ago that they're going to come in and take basically the south of Lebanon. Hezbollah, who had been silent for a good while as they reorganized, said, no, no, I don't think so. I don't
Yeah.
think so at all. And what they have done, and it's to my mind, it's they saw that with the war that was being waged on Iran, if Iran lost, they Hezbollah would be destroyed. So they said,
Right.
then we're all in. We're all in. And they have been giving the Israeli military in Lebanon a serious, serious run for their money. As is normally the case when you invade another people's country and try and take their homes and destroy their homes and kill their family members, they kind of they tend to fight against that, and that's what Hezbollah has done. And they are exceptionally good, and they're exceptionally well armed, and they're exceptionally good fighters.
Yeah.
So there are these are our Lebanese brothers and or sisters. I don't know how many sisters are involved, but I think there are. And but they are giving the Israelis heck, as they say,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and they as they should, and they will,
Yeah.
I believe, drive them out of Lebanon, and they may do even more than that. The
Mm-hmm.
Radwan Brigade, which is their special forces, as I understood it from my reading yesterday and late yesterday and early today, had actually entered northern Israel and caused some difficulties for the Israelis there. So
Yeah.
we'll see. But
They did warn the I believe they they fired rockets at a I thought this was interesting, kind of stuck out to me. They warned some settlers to get out of their settlement
oh,
before they
the
fired rockets at
right, the
yeah.
northern Israelis in
Hmm.
the north of Israel, that they need to move back. I forget how far they told
Right.
them to move back, but that there
Yeah.
was going to be trouble there.
Yeah.
You know,
Which is
I mean,
interesting.
I don't
It's
know if
interesting.
this
It's
was
just
done
such a
sort of like,
difference.
well, this is what you guys do to us, so we're going to do it to you. See how much you like
Yeah.
this.
Well,
But
they did just do it. I don't know if you saw, but they were like, they said, all of Lebanon, all Lebanese need to leave the south of Lebanon."
yes,
Can you
yeah,
imagine
some
if somebody
800.
came into America and was like, you got to leave the south of America. You got to leave the southern part, Texas, Alabama, all those. You got to just go north. It's all right. Just, you're going to save yourselves. Go north. And you'll otherwise you're gonna die. We can't guarantee your safety because we're just gonna get we're gonna get those guys, and then not only did they do that, which is insane, unethical, you're invading another country, all those things that are true and right, but then where did they, of course they also bombed southern Lebanon, but they bombed the middle of Lebanon. They bombed Beirut, where
Yeah,
everybody would go to. It's
yeah.
like it was
Well,
this deliberate
the only
perverse.
sort of ace in the Israeli hand is their air power.
Yeah.
And that is, if if I'm following carefully what's happening with Iran, that is being degraded.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it'll
Yeah.
be degraded enough, but it's being degraded. And when they
Mm-hmm.
try and put their planes in Cyprus, it appears that the Iranians are targeting those bases where the Israelis put their planes there as well.
Maybe
Maybe that's I mean that's
somebody
what.
did. It's not clear because I don't know. I was trying to figure that out because somebody had asked me about like, oh my God, they attacked Greece. I was like, what, Greece? Oh wait, no. I was like, no, and I mean Cyprus isn't part of Greece, but anyway, that setting that aside, different country.
Right,
Um, there's I guess in the sphere of all right, understandable. They do also
right,
speak Greek, but
right. Well, but
but
the other thing
part
that
of them.
other thing that's important to point out is that some Turkish armaments manufacturers just made a major sale. I've forgotten the amount, but a major
Hmm,
sale of weaponry to the Israelis. So no matter what
interesting.
Erdogan says about supporting
Oh,
Palestine, which has been nothing but bluster, they are still doing significant trade with the Israelis, both in oil and armaments, it appears.
oh yeah, he's so full of it.
So,
Yeah, no, no. All I meant to say is, and I could be wrong about this. I'll have to double check it. But I heard or saw or read or whatever, that they didn't take that the IRGC didn't take responsibility for the attack on Cyprus. They said
mm,
somebody else
mm,
did it. I
yeah,
if
okay,
I
all right.
had to if I was gonna render a conspiracy theory just based on the way that Israel has been acting, which,
Mhm.
in all fairness, has been kind of pretty consistent with whatever some of the things that seem like conspiracy theories in fact turn out not to be. Put it that way. Um, I could see Israel uh, launching a um, a rocket at Cyprus at the uh, RAF, the British Air Force
Yeah,
base,
could
which is
be,
what it
could be,
was.
could be.
I could see that. I mean, it's not like they haven't done that almost that exact same thing before with the what was it
And the Iranians have been. I mean, they say what they mean,
MBs?
and they mean what they
Yeah,
say. And they've, as far as I can tell, I mean, obviously, it could be wrong. There's things I don't certainly don't know, but when they do something, they say, "Yeah, we did this." And if they make a
right,
mistake, they've been actually pretty good about saying, if we make a mistake, we make a mistake. I mean, it's
right,
it's they're impressive,
yeah,
as was Hamas, impressive in
right,
that regard. They did what they
yeah,
said, and when they made a mistake, they would say, "We made a mistake."
right.
So, so anyway, I guess where does this leave us? An hour into this, it leaves us basically where we started. Because I think we're in huge, huge, huge trouble. Um,
Yeah.
and I don't know how we quite get out of this.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know how we quite get out of it. But one of the ways I'm quite convinced is it's not through the destruction of Iran.
No.
Whatever happens with Iran, whatever the people of Iran want, is what they should be able to sort out themselves.
Yeah.
Not what we want, not what Israel wants. I mean,
Yeah.
if we haven't, if we should have learned that if we've learned nothing else
Yeah. It kind
since
of
World War
it
II.
goes without saying, or should go without. Maybe it shouldn't go without saying. Let me
Yeah,
say
I don't
what
think it
what might maybe could go without saying, but regardless of what you think of any country, what do you think of
Mhm.
the state of human rights, or the way women are treated, or the way immigrants are treated, whatever, the whether you think that Alabama doesn't treat poor people well, or whatever. I'm saying uh, any country, the answer to those problems, to the problems that you perceive, whether they're real or not, is not to bomb them. That does not help.
Right.
You don't bombs. First off, bombs don't discriminate between gay people and straight people, and secondly, that just isn't how you do it. That's not. Imagine if somebody bombed you. Would that make you more willing to, I don't know, let the homeless person sleep in your house?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Probably not. And frankly, the whole issue of women's rights in Iran, I mean,
Yeah.
you know, the something like half or slightly more than half of university students are women. The number of STEM graduates that are women is off the charts compared to what anything in this country. That's for sure. It's
Yeah.
pretty breathtaking. Again,
Yeah.
every country's got issues. Every country's got problems they got to fix. Iran's not a different one than that. I mean, that's all good. That's fine. Um, and to be, sort of critical of flaws, I think is legit when you're trying
Sure.
to help someone be better, but not when you're trying to blow them to smithereens. And that's what the United
Right.
States and Israel are doing.
Right.
And it's got nothing to do with women's rights. It's got nothing to do with human rights. It's got nothing to do
No.
with anything. It's got to do with
No.
pure power and the fact that Iran has stood up, and they claim. I'm sorry. The claim sounds like I'm being judgmental in a way that I shouldn't be. It's just that I don't know this. But the Iranians state that one of the reasons that they are stand not stand up for the Palestinians, but for anyone who is oppressed, is because of the Shia sect of Islam. That is part of the duty of a Shia.
Yeah.
And they've stood up. They've supported Cuba, not an Islamic country. They support
Right.
the Palestinians. I mean, they and on and on and on and on and on. So it is. They certainly do not deserve what we in Israel are doing to them. That is for sure.
Yeah.
And I think anything we can do to make that stop, we should. I think that what Trump is going to do is get a bunch of our young men and women killed, to say nothing of destroying our economy and potentially, if things go further south, as it were, um,
Yeah.
the world economy. And this may
Yeah.
even explode into nuclear war. So, on that
Yeah.
unhappy note, you should cue our our
I will cue
closing
it.
music.
That sounds good. You guys, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, my uncle, for being here with me. I love you, man.
We
And
should
we will see
we should
you
say one
all
more
next
thing.
time.
People,
Oh,
if people who listen to this have thoughts on what's to be done, they should
yeah,
send it to us, right?
please do.
Either at our Gmail address.
Yeah, yeah,
Is
yeah.
that listed?
Comrade Uncle Pod, Comrade Uncle Pod at gmail.com. Please do. I mean, I am not only receptive, I'm eager to hear. I'm
Yeah,
curious. I
we need, you know,
would love to know. I would love to have, or even just any thoughts or comments, whatever.
random thought, anything. We're happy to listen
Yeah,
to you guys. Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah.
Thanks, Alicia. Good to see you.
Where's the best place to get a cheeseburger where you live? I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah, cheeseburgers matter. Cheeseburgers
Yeah,
matter.
this is important.
All right.
All right, you
Cue the
guys,
closing
take
music.
care.
See
All
you, man.
right, let's do it. Let's see if this works. Bye. I love you, Uncle Joe. Bye.
Take care, man. Bye.
Fingers crossed, eh?
Stamattina
Yeah.
mi sono alzato. Oh bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, ciao, ciao.
It's the 30-second one.
Stamattina mi sono alzato e ho trovato l'invaso. Oh partigiano, portami via. Oh bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, ciao, ciao. Partigiano, portami via. Che mi sento di morire.
All right, we'll see you guys next time.
Take care, man.
Love you, Uncle Joe.
Thanks, Alicia.
Bye.